What about your father? What happened to him?
He protected us from a tin can. We were able to sneak out, but he had no chance. When I looked back, he was lying there, dead on the floor. Look, I'm sorry. I don't think I'm ready for this.
Do you need help with anything?
Is that your best pickup line? Sorry, that was a bad joke. I tend to do that when I'm stressed. I think I got it from my dad. Better that than his mustache, right? Oh, I'm sorry, don't mind me.
Seems you were very close.
As close as could be. He taught me everything I know. Sometimes without me even knowing. This one time, when I was little, he wanted to make a huge sign that said, "Welcome," on the side of our house in Pasadena. So he said, "I bet you can't spell that." And of course I had to prove him wrong. Believe me, now I know how stupid that was.
Not at all. That was very clever.
Yeah, he was always full of bright ideas. Thanks for trying to make me feel better. After Judgment Day, my dad turned our house into a safe haven. A home for everyone who'd lost theirs. We were like a family with an endless supply of uncles and aunts. I guess my father wanted to help with the war. We never really used guns. So the only thing we could do was to help others in need.
Seems like he helped a lot of people.
He did. Right till the very end. Anyway, it was actually really cool. Everybody loved him, and he loved having them around. I think it's because he always had a brand new audience to listen to his bad jokes. He had this really terrible one. He'd walk into the room and ask if anyone had seen his remote because his team was playing. I always laughed at it. I'll never understand why.
Was he a sports fan?
I don't think so. He had a jersey that he wouldn't let anyone touch. But I don't think it was a token of his love of sports, more like a reminder of simpler times. Look at me yapping. I'm sorry, you probably have enough on your plate. Anyway, thanks. It's really nice to have someone to talk to.
Aren't you curious about what happened in Pasadena?
No. I think I'd rather keep that place in the past. Actually, I have a confession to make. I've never been outside of Pasadena until now. Can you believe that?
How's that even possible?
With all the people constantly stopping by, there was always plenty to do at the house. I did my traveling through pictures and postcards that wanderers brought with them. My favorite had a little flamingo drinking water from a lake on it. Its long red neck curved like a snake. Patrick's mother gave me that postcard. It's funny how I never met my mother, but I was around to see Patrick's leave him.
I thought Patrick was your brother.
In our house, we were all brothers and sisters. But me and Patrick, we've always had this special bond. Felt what the other one was feeling. We'd even get sick together. I remember the day Patrick's mom brought him in. They were both tired and dirty, so we took care of them. Patrick was crying a lot. He was teething at the time. I think that was what scared her away. She just couldn't handle the crying.
Did you blame her?
No, I didn't. For some reason, I was mad at my dad. For letting her go, I guess. After she took off, I was devastated. But my father said, "You need to grow up. You have a brother now." So I burned the postcard. The little red flamingo flew up in flames. And I promised myself I'd never be weak again. But I guess we all need someone we can be weak with sometimes, don't we?
Is there something on your mind?
Actually, I have a secret to tell you. You've a fan. Patrick really looks up to you. It's good for him to have a role model. And I don't think he could have chosen better.
I don't think I'd make for a good role model.
I never knew Jacob Rivers could be so coy. Be proud, you're a hero. The Resistance owes you a lot. And so do I. If you hadn't found us back in Pasadena, I don't know what would have happened. Well, actually I do. Exactly what the others said would happen. People were talking about the Annihilation Line months before it came. My father, of course, tried to turn it all into a joke.
But what did you think about it?
I didn't know what to think. Travelers would bring all sorts of gossip with them. But this kept coming back. When Patrick asked me if I was scared, I lied and said that I wasn't. You could feel the mood change at the house. The community my father tried to build started falling apart. Fewer and fewer people were coming by, and if they did, they weren't always friendly. We started to notice things going missing. Little things at first. People got nervous, and with time, it even got to my father.
What do you mean?
Well, for one thing, he stopped making jokes. It had never been as quiet at the house as it had been back then. After a while, my father changed the sign from welcome to beware. He put a lock on the door and started carrying a shotgun. I didn't even know he owned a gun. He always said he didn't believe in them. I wanted us to leave our house and run, but he didn't want to listen. Said it was the only place he could keep us safe. Thanks for letting me spill my guts like that.
Is everything okay? You seem far away.
Nothing can get past you, can it? I've been thinking about the day we met. I never told you how we really ended up there.
You can tell me anything.
I know I can. That's why you're the first person I'm telling this to. That day, loud hammering woke me up. When I came downstairs, I saw my father nailing the window shut. Through the crack, I saw them coming. Hundreds of metal heads and their red eyes. Even though they're just empty shells, I could feel the hate radiating from them.
What did you do?
I made Patrick stay upstairs and went back to talk to my father. We argued for a minute or two, and I tried to pull him away from the window. He pushed me away. I tried it again, but he shoved me. This time I fell. I didn't recognize him as he was reaching for his shotgun. He said, I shouldn't worry about the machines. They wouldn't hurt us. I don't even remember how. But the gun was already in my hands. I closed my eyes and went someplace else. Didn't even hear the shot. I didn't hear Patrick's steps either.
Did you lose consciousness?
I guess I did for a moment. It was the taste of blood on my lips that woke me from my trance. I threw the gun away, grabbed Patrick, and tried not to notice the hole in my father's unmoving chest. As we ran, I could hear them coming, so we found somewhere to hide. Then you came. I wanted to tell someone about all this, but I was afraid to.
You don't have to be afraid.
I'm not. Not anymore. We talk a lot about how heartless the machines are. And I started to think that maybe I was too. I probably would have convinced myself of that if it wasn't for you keeping me sane. Thank you Everything. I never thought I would find a friend in times like these.
Do you remember Judgment Day?
I do. That's right. I'm that old. My memory ain't as good as it used to be. However, there are some images that stand out in my mind. My brother Tucker hitting on this lady guard, or people covered in mud. But for the life of me, I can't remember the name of that band.
You have a brother.
I did. Older brother. Well, he was a ladies' man. We didn't have tickets to the concert, but he knew how to charm a lady. She let us in. Well, him. I tagged along like I always did. Yeah, it was one of those outdoor festivals. When we got in, we decided to climb this metal tower to get a better view of the stage, So, as we're watching this band play their hearts out, we see a burst of bright, ugly light. I went blind for a while.
What was it?
Took me a while to understand what I was looking at. An atomic mushroom cloud wasn't something we were ever supposed to see. My bloodshot eyes, the only other thing I could see clearly was people below me being crushed. The tower we were clinging onto started shaking. It finally gave in after the shockwave from the explosion. I closed my eyes and it started falling onto the people below. What am I thinking of? I'm usually a lighthearted guy. Why don't we talk about something more positive? Oh, God, I remember the name of that band now. It was Captured by Robots.
What's on your mind?
You really got me thinking about old Tucker again. In times like these, I wouldn't mind having him around. He always know what to do. He was the only one who didn't lose his mind after Judgment Day.
What did he do?
He finally found me hiding below the stage. I was such a nervous wreck. So to try to calm me down, he just said, "That band sucked anyway." Tucker said, "We need to be calm right now." I listened to him. We all did, survivors from the concert.
Did you drive someplace safe?
It was my first call. Just drive. Gave it a shot. We kept running into these sandstorms. Every car fucked up after a couple of miles. Turned out that atomic dust ain't so great with engines. Finally, we found a couple houses, but the people there were as confused as we were. All the communication went to shit. Tucker managed to find some batteries, and we sat in front of our boombox. They started to list cities to avoid. Cities that were hit by the nuclear bombs.
How many cities were hit?
I don't know exactly how many, but it took them a couple of minutes just to go through the A's. We looked at each other crying. We just wanted to go home and be with family, but Tucker said that for now, the safest place there is right where we were. So we decided to stay and start a camp.
What happened after you started your camp?
Honestly, not that much. At least not in the beginning. When we gave up on the idea of getting in touch with anyone, we just tried to adapt. Temperatures fell, we had to scavenge for food. All of a sudden, that became our life.
Didn't you try to reach home?
Some people did. Most of us were scared of what we'd find if we did get home, so we conveniently said We're stranded here anyways, and stayed. Well, I know how stupid it sounds, but we managed to have fun in our little commune. I still had my guitar with me. We talked a lot about how we're gonna be famous, because we're the only living band in the world.
You played in a band.
I did. One of the few things I was better at than Tucker. He didn't have much talent, but he loved the idea of sex, drugs, and rock and roll, especially the first two. We were just stupid kids, not realizing what was going on. We paid the price for it the first time we saw a tin can. I was tuning my guitar when I heard a strange noise. I found out later that it was a T-400. Must have heard me play. It didn't even have the decency to look scary. Maybe if it did, we wouldn't have just stood there when it started firing.
What did you do?
I froze. I didn't run to help. I didn't scream. I didn't even move. I just stood there, like a coward. A tin can got Tucker with a single bullet. Bam! Just like that. 7 other people died before we finally destroyed that thing. Ironically enough, I was the one who delivered the final blow. Safe to say, it was the beginning of a new era.
Earlier, you said that a new era started. What changed?
Well, for one thing, with Tucker dead, I became the new leader of the group. Something I never expected or wanted, for that matter.
Did everyone agree that you should be the new leader?
Not everyone. We had a huge fight about food, or where we should go next, and so on. Our group divided without Tucker to keep it together. I was terrified. I started to walk away like I was on autopilot. I don't know if I wanted to run away or to kill myself, but then something surreal happened. I found a metal door in the ground in the middle of nowhere. I was real unsure about what I might find under it, but what I did find was the aftermath of a massacre.
More Terminators?
That's exactly what I thought at first, but it turned out to be something even more scary. It looked like they decided to commit suicide. I couldn't understand it. To me, they had everything. Food, water. They even had a case of beer. So, I got shit-faced and started crying over my brother's death. But I realized something. I realized that I could maybe survive there.
Did you come back to tell everyone?
I did. After I buried the bodies outside, I returned to the camp with the good news. After that, we were all right. That night, I learned 2 things. Firstly, that it's okay to be scared. Secondly, that there are 2 sides to everybody. Ironically, me being a scaredy cat turned me into a good leader. And that's how I found that place, and that's what motivated me to help others. But Tucker, well, he was a leader from the start, but he had an ugly side too. He killed those who opposed him. He was a real scumbag, but he was my brother. He made me want to be a good person for the both of us. A hangover wasn't a high price to pay for that lesson.
Do you need help with anything?
No, I'm fine. I had to learn to do things by myself for quite a while, sweetie. Now, tell me, what did you really want to ask me?
How did you know about the Annihilation Line?
I heard the rumors, like everyone else. And then, like everyone else, I decided to ignore them. I was in the middle of operating on a little girl. When I had finished, I realized that we were surrounded. The machines killed most of us, but they decided to keep me alive. So that's how I ended up in a camp. Maybe they thought it would be worth having a doctor in there. I don't know.
What happens at those camps?
People get tortured, experimented on, cut to pieces. I couldn't watch at first, but I soon realized that I had to do what no one else could. I had to bear witness to the atrocities. You're actually the first person that wasn't afraid to ask. They're all scared of me, like I'm carrying some sort of disease. But they're still coming to me for medicine. Ironic, isn't it?
About that camp.
What do you want to know?
How did the machines communicate with you?
There was this one machine, we called it Nurse Ratchet. It was designed to look almost friendly. It wore an awful, smiling, rubber human face. At the end of every week, it took the weakest of us for experimentation. My cellmate, Karen, was pregnant. I knew that was a one-way ticket to the grinder, so I had to plan an escape.
Did Skynet ever notice she was pregnant?
Well, we tried to keep it a secret, but when she started showing, they informed me that after the birth, I would have to kill the baby. Otherwise, they would execute the whole cage. The baby came early, and Karen died giving birth. She didn't even get to see her child. I had to take action. Me and one other prisoner took the child, and we got to the disposal room, where we covered ourselves with dead bodies. Then we just lay there, waiting for them to throw us out. And they did. They dumped us outside the camp, ready for the grinder.
Were you still behind the annihilation line?
Yes. We couldn't find anyone for days. We thought we were the last of the human race. Just the two of us and a baby girl. We ran to protect her, but deep down we were preparing for the worst. Anyway, you're healthy, right? And your bones don't look broken, so stop bothering me.
You never told me you had a husband.
You never asked.
Was he at that camp with you?
He was. Sweet little man. I had to take care of him when they sent us to work, because he was so fragile. Back at the camp, I used to think that the machines kept Peter alive to get me to cooperate. So when there was an opportunity to run, we had to take it. And we did. We ran with this little child that I had started to love. I felt that she was mine.
What was her name?
Her name was Taylor. Peter said it sounded too manly, so I said, good, we'll finally have a man in the family. But as you know nowadays, no story has a happy ending. She died shortly after. We buried her, and we stopped talking to each other. Eventually, the annihilation line caught up with us. We got separated. I ran away. He did too. At least, I hope he did. That's all.
What's in your mind?
Ever since you asked me about Peter, I can't stop thinking about him. Like a teenage girl. That's your fault, young man.
Have you tried looking for him?
I've looked for him for a while. I went to the place where we said we'd meet if we ever got separated. But he wasn't there. Maybe it's stupid. Maybe I should stop thinking about him. He's He's probably dead by now. God knows he can't take care of himself.
Do you want to find him?
Sometimes I think I should drop everything and go. I would get an earful from Baron, but she's nothing I can't handle. Anyway, what I didn't tell you before is that during Judgment Day, I lost a child. Our child. I don't know if it would have happened anyway, but I like to blame the machines for that. I think that Peter felt with Taylor we were given a second chance. God, he's still out there waiting for me, isn't he? Probably sitting in his rocking chair back in our house in Hollywood Hills. Oh, where the hell are you, Peter?
Was Mac the one whose drone you smashed?
Yes. Yes, it was. I've never told this to anyone, but before I met Mac and Perry, I was wandering alone. Didn't have a map, so I drew one myself. The first people I came across were two guys, old enough to remember Judgment Day. We camped out together. They gave me advice, we shared some stories. Sounds nice, right?
A little too good to be true.
It was. I was too naive to notice it back then. When I woke up, all my things were gone, including my map. There I was, lost in the desert. Thirst and hunger. I knew I was gonna die. I passed out with my face in the sand. But next thing, I was lying in a bed, bathed and wearing clean clothes.
You're lucky someone found you.
Someone did find me. Too bad it was Skynet. Through the window, I saw thousands of Terminators. First, I thought it was a work camp. But it was something else. A Skynet research facility. They kept me alive, but I didn't know why. I thought I was the only human there. But after a while, someone came into my cell. A man. Well-dressed, clean-shaven. You want to take a guess who that was?
One of those guys who robbed you?
No. He was a traitor to his race. Bastard was selling every piece of knowledge the machines didn't have. In return, they gave him everything he wanted. When he was done stuffing his face with food, he had another request. He wanted a whore. It lasted months, until I got to wrap a towel around his neck and make his eyes pop. You don't want to see people for what they really are. I've seen their true face. That traitor, those two guys in the desert, Mac, they all showed it to me. It's not pretty. The truth is, the only reason I fight for the Resistance is because I despise people just a little less than the machines.
If you don't mind me asking, how did you end up here?
Excuse me if I act a little surprised, Sergeant. But no one in here thinks it's wise to ask their superior personal questions. But since you did, I'll humor you. So, how did I get here? The same way you did. I was born, raised, and given a gun. We don't really have a say in what we do we? Or do I assume too much? Was it any different for you? Why do you fight, Sergeant?
It's the right thing to do.
There's nothing noble in what we do. Humans were fighting humans since the beginning of time. It just so happens that right now we have a common enemy. If it wasn't for the machines, we'd probably be fighting each other.
That doesn't mean we should give up and stop fighting.
No, it doesn't. I'm just warning you. Don't hold your breath waiting for all this to be over. There will always be another war. Besides, I'm not a fighter. When I go out there in the middle of the night with my Westinghouse, I'm not looking for a fight. I look to seek and conquer. I'm not a fighter. I'm a bully.
Who wants to be a bully?
Believe me, there will come a time when you'll become whatever you need to be to survive. No one ever stands up to bullies. But I have to admit, it has its downsides. One of them being that no one ever asks me a personal question. At least not since Perry died. So congratulations, Rivers. Takes guts to stand up to a bully. I guess since your promotion, you got a little more cocky. Good for you.
Who's Perry? You mentioned him before.
The best soldier I ever fought beside. He was the one who brought me into the Resistance. It's actually a funny story. Years ago, when I was just a kid, I saw a Skynet drone attacking some guy. Without thinking, I grabbed a rock and jumped on it. The guy was screaming the whole time while I beat the metal to the ground. Only when I was done did I realize he was trying to stop me.
You killed a drone with a rock?
I was young and stupid. Thank God the drone wasn't really armed, otherwise I wouldn't be here to tell you the story. He was a resistance scientist, and that drone was one of his projects. So you can imagine he wasn't too happy when I smashed it to pieces. But he wasn't alone. There was this huge guy with a rifle on his shoulder, almost choking with laughter. I sure made his day.
That huge guy. Was that Perry?
Yes, it was. Commander Perry was in charge of this division before me. That scientist later told me that was the first time he ever heard Perry laugh. Somehow, Perry and I connected. He taught me how to channel my anger and get it under control. He introduced me to Connor, and that's how I got to the 132nd.
Whatever happened to Perry?
Skynet got hold of our position. We had to leave our shelter. There were a lot of casualties, and he was one of them. He died a soldier. I'd never thought I'd be reminiscing about the day I met them. This may come as a surprise to you, but it was the first metal I ever destroyed.
Sounds like you were late in joining the Destroy Skynet campaign.
Before that, it was people, not machines. But that's a different story.